Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to our second Baseball Alberta Umpires Point of the Plate session. This evening, we are going to be getting our annual umpire state of the program address from our provincial supervisor, Brandon Strocki. For some of you who may not know who I am, I'm Jeff Chipley, and I am the communications coordinator for the Baseball Alberta Umpires Committee. Alongside me tonight is Provincial Supervisor of Umpire and backup host, Brandon Strocki. Brandon, thanks for covering for me last week, and looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the state of the umpire program in Alberta.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was a pleasure to flip the roles for a change. So it was good last week. We'll get going. Anything else, sorry, Chip, before we start? Or
Yeah, no, for anyone that does have any questions of Brandon tonight, feel free. For those of you that are watching live on YouTube, feel free to toss that into the chat function, and we'll get to some of those questions a little bit later on this evening. For those of you that are watching a little bit later on during the year, whether it's tomorrow or a few days down the road, you have any questions, feel free to reach out to Brandon or myself. Our contact information is on the Baseball Alberta Umpires website. So, Brandon, with that, take her away.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. We'll look at the agenda here for tonight. We're going to go through the 2024 year in review by the numbers, as we've always done previous year, just to kind of see what the year looked like in review. We'll preview the 2025 season level by level. Plus, I got a couple current stats kind of already for this year because of we're doing this session a little later than we have. So we have some updated information, and then we'll look at some of the continuing and new initiatives for 2025 and beyond. And then, of course, as Jeff said, we'll end with question and answers. So feel free to pop those in the chat. So let's get into the numbers for 2024. So I entitled it this year, Breaking New Ground, because we're now at a place where we've never been before in the umpire program when it comes to registrations and things like that, and really in Baseball Alberta. So 2024 all-time record. It was an all-time record last year at 1096, and we did better than that with 1,272 umpires this year. Just a couple of quick stats there. When you look at our arbiter usage, we know that that's been our vehicle for assigning games. So those stats are a little bit better this year in terms of percentage wise, the use of arbiter and people using arbiter to get at least one game or more. So that's encouraging. It's not a huge jump by any means, and we certainly want to improve upon that. But just to show that there has been growth in umpires using arbiter and us trying to extend games to as many umpires that are available at the right levels. And I know we've talked about this in the past, and we'll jump into that probably a little bit later on. But so that has improved. And then I just always like to compare our umpire numbers to player numbers in the program. Baseball Alberta did excellent again in 2024, increasing overall player registrations by about 400 as well. So, umpire growth and player growth certainly trending upwards. Again, I've always said this, it's always that discrepancy of where just the total numbers are and what that plays out to in actuality as the season continues. So we'll move on to some other stats here that we go through on the next couple slides. That's next. Flipping. So just kind of break down by the levels. I think this is really important that are and a little bit of male-female demographic as well to say to put in there too, just to show us. So 847 umpires in the level 1 program. That's pretty typical. We know that we have a bottom base, right? And it's very much a pyramid with a little bit of a blip in the middle between level 3 and level 4, 5. And we're going to talk about that later on. Level 2 then significantly decreases to 333. Level 3, again, that's that blip in the pyramid. It's like that every year. It's something that we're going to work on, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. And then, of course, our national level program, level 4-5 umpires at 59, which is pretty steadfast. I don't think that number changes too much. And so when we add those all up, 1272, and then that, I just want to, because I'm going to talk about this at the end of the presentation, just recognize those female numbers of umpires at 89. That's an important stat for us, and I'll get to why that is and what we want to do with that number. As I've said before, we're very data driven in the umpire program, and we do a lot of our brainstorming and what our new initiatives are going to be and what are things that we want to achieve based on statistics. And so just keep that number of 89 identifying female umpires in the back of your brain for the end of the presentation here. Okay, we'll move on to the next breakdown just by umpire zone. And then, of course, zone by level. So if you're wondering, like, why are we struggling in my area to get certain maybe levels of baseball covered? Well, a way that we can look at this is to look at how many high-end officials do you have? How many in our high-performance stream do you have? How many do you have in your grassroots program? So this is a really good demographic to see, breakdown rather, and umpire and zone. That's not too surprising to us. We know that the central region is huge. There's a ton of baseball there, so it makes sense that we would have a ton of umpires that come from there. Zone 5 surrounding Edmonton area, of course, being our bulk, and certainly trying to improve in all the other regions as we go on. So I think that's always a good stat for us to look at. And when you look at that by NUCP number level, that maybe tells a little bit of a picture too, potentially. We can move on. Age, umpire registrations, oldest umpire at 76 years old, youngest just under 12 when they registered. They were turning 12 that season. But really the telling tale here is that 82% of our umpires are age 19 or younger. And we've known this for years. This is not a new stat. This is maybe a stat that we didn't quite believe or that we didn't use, and I think really we're using that stat right now to show some of the issues that we have with attaining and retaining umpires at certain levels for games, because we're trying to put umpires in positions of strength, positions where they're going to be successful. And when we're dealing with 82% of umpires that are still teenagers or playing, that tells a big picture for us. So again, 65% even below the age of 16. So they're not able to drive. That's the bulk of our umpire program right there. And when you add up the next demographic, 16 to 19 or 20, that brings us up to 82%. So understanding that is, and that's fine. It's how a lot of umpires start, and we are happy about that. But what we know as the umpire committee is that how do we take 20-year-olds and bring them into maybe that 26 to 30-year-old bracket, or the 31 to 35-year-old, where it's pretty small, right? Less than 1% of our total group is in that. Well, we also know what happens in life during those times, right? So we have jobs starting, we have families starting, maybe young kids that are now where our priorities go from umpiring to maybe wanting to coach. There's a lot of different reasons that go into that, but understanding that, that's a struggle for us to staff 18 UAA, for example, because we're not going to put a 17-year-old umpire that's maybe only a level 1 or 2 into an 18 UAA game. That just doesn't make sense. It's not necessarily a position likely for that umpire to succeed in. And when we're dealing with 82% of our umpires in that amateur age range that are possibly playing, or if they're not playing, then again, we want to make sure that they're at a level that they can be successful at. So age demographics always a good one to look at. Moving on. Some of our signing numbers, I know that this is always for off-field managers and coaches and players. Sometimes it always feels like we're so struggling to sign games, and we are. It is one of the biggest jobs that we do. It is the most stressful job, certainly for the team in the office, for us as the assigning team. for our umpires that are waiting and needing to be assigned and wanting to manage their life. And so we know that assigning is a big deal for us and as the umpire committee. And we actually do a pretty good job of it when we look at these numbers to make sure that the games have at least one umpire. And what's our total number of no umpires? Those are pretty good stats that we can be very proud about, and that we are. And I just want to add the little caveat at the end. So 54 provincial championships are assigned. Graham Grider does a great job of that as our provincial championship assigner at the end of the year, in July. And he's going to continue to do a great job of that and continue to become more efficient to make sure that championships get assigned earlier and to places where, again, umpires are going to be successful. So continue to watch out for those. But again, 54 of those were assigned this year. So I know it's a little bit covered up, but the caveat under that stat says umpires may still have shown up to the game or non-arbiter umpires were used. No umpire does not mean that the game wasn't played. So still in that 2.3, 2.4, 3.1, 3.8, 3.2%, where the stats is there was no umpires, that actually might have been lower because we might have scrambled to find somebody to fill those games to make sure that game still got played, and maybe it just didn't get assigned in arbiter for whatever reason. So those stats could be potentially lower, and like we said, we try to do our absolute best at making sure that we get as many games assigned. Canceling games is the very last thing we ever want to do as the umpire committee, and for the most part at a pretty successful rate at 96% or better at each level. We're doing that, and so we're very proud of that. All right, we can move on. Clinics 2024, great record setting year for a number of clinics, as you can see, from 2022, 2023, and then into 2024. And as we talk, we're outdoing ourselves again in 2025. So just a quick breakdown there of level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many clinics at each level? Okay. If we do that by region, I think this is an interesting one maybe to look at. The North, a lot of associated. Remember, we got to remember how clinics get put on, right? So typically we put this out to associations to say, hey, please apply for a clinic in your area. We take in all the applications, and we try to make sure that clinics don't overlap on days that are within the same area, like vicinity, like a near area. Our goal is to make sure that there's a clinic within an hour of most of the associations that have baseball in Baseball Alberta. And so that we're trying to limit travel, but at the same time, we want to spread our wings across the province as best as possible. And so when we look at this clinic chart, what it's telling us is that associations in the North, I mean, granted, there are a few more associations in the North are applying, and therefore getting it at a greater increase. The Central, we know, has a ton of baseball, and again, there's a lot of associations within closer proximity in the Central, but at the same time, we could always use more clinics there. The South, again, and then we just put an online stat as well in there. Okay. So we can move on. 2025, just kind of look at this. So 37 approved level 1 clinics already, which would be ahead of where we were last year. So for those of you that this is last year's kind of slide, but level 1's a 1 or 2 year program depending upon experience. So if you umpired 10 or more games in 2024, then we suggested that you move to level 2 this year for 2025. If you hadn't, then we suggested to do the level 1 refresher course. So the curriculum for level 1 is the basics, very much making sure that you are able to go out and perform adequately and be comfortable at a grassroots level, community-based 11U, 13U kind of level of game. And so that was refreshed this year. I'm really happy with our curriculum team that we put together. They worked really hard and put a lot of time and effort to refresh our curriculum. It wasn't brand new. They didn't reinvent anything, but they certainly added to it and made our level 1 and 2 curriculums a lot better for 2025. So just wanted to point that out there. Move on to level 2 here. 27 approved clinics in 2025. There's an edit there. You see I didn't make the 2025 season. For those of you, again, 3-year programs that segment the rules into 3 different areas. So 2025 was on offense, 2026 is defense, and then 2027 will be on game management. I call it module-based learning. There's just so much that we can incorporate into level 2 that it's best for us to break it down this way. And so, over the course of 3 years, our level 2s get the full meal when it comes to the level 2 curriculum. Our expectations is that level 2 umpires could be assigned into the 13U AA and 13U AAA, potentially also the 15U AA. And minor provincial championship levels. Okay, so that's when we think about the quality of baseball at a 13U AAA and 15U AA, that we're getting at some pretty good baseball that's out there, and so we need to make sure that our level 2s are performing at a level that's going to be adequate there as well. And so that's why that level 2 program has been broken into 3 years, and we are okay with level 1s moving into level 2 after a year because it's very much just the basics. But then we really want to make sure that as they go through the level 2 program that they're getting the best training that they possibly can so that they're prepared for the level of baseball that we expect them to be working as a level 2. Level 3 season preview, 3-year program, again, to be completed, which includes an in-person clinic, an online module-based learning, and of course the completion and passing of the level 3 exam. So we, at level 3 in-person clinics, we have talked about this at length to try to explain this because this is still relatively new. It's its 3rd year of implementation this year, and so I just want to make sure everybody understands the level 3 process a little bit. You can only complete one of these components in a given year. As provinces, we're allowed to add and combine different aspects in whichever year we think is best. And of course, special exemptions can always be made to move around and to take what you may or may not have gotten in the past. So the next slide is going to break down where we're at this year. So I went back all the way to 2023, which is when we first implemented that. We ran 3 in-person, I believe, level 3 clinics around the province. And so if you were attending one of those, then your kind of pathway says that last year you should have done the online modules and you could have done the exam. We also did run an in-person clinic still last year because we understand there's a need. People love in-person clinics. We love people that are attending in-person clinics. So we ran one in Central Alberta. But if you started this progression in 2023, then as of in 2025, you would do the new 2025 mandatory exam. Again, this year in 2025, we did run one in-person clinic held in Sherwood Park. So you can kind of see there's a trend here that we will always offer that in-person clinic. But in the other years, after you attend the in-person clinic, then you must accomplish or complete those other 2 pieces of the online modules and the exam. So in 2025, Baseball Canada has rewritten their level 3 exam. So it's a new exam this year where they won't rewrite one now until 2028. So it'll be the same exam online for the next 3 years. And then again, 2026, so next year, there'll be probably multiple in-person clinics to be held around the province because we're going to be back to the cycle of where we were in 2023. I'm trying to think what else I want to talk about on this slide here. Yeah, so you can choose to enter at any point, and whatever you choose to attend in that year, that kind of sets your course of and your direction in the level 3 clinic when you first enter the level 3. Do you enter the level 3 and just go, you know what, this year it's 2025, it's a new exam, I'm just going to do the exam. I didn't go to Sherwood Park. Okay, well then next year, what's your next step going to be? Are you going to go to an in-person clinic? There's going to be a few of them. And then the next year you would do in 2027, you would do modules, and then you're done, the level 3, or you've completed the requirements. I think I'll leave it there because it kind of gets messy. And if there's individual questions, please reach out to me and I can help guide a little bit better when the level 3 program comes up. Level 4-5, it's by invite only or recommendation after completing the level 3 program. Now you're expected to be able to umpire at all levels in the province and major provincial championships. You have to go through the Super Clinic, which we held in Olds March 1st and 2nd this year. You have to complete the national exam. You have to do formal evaluations in 3 umpire system at a provincial championship, and then you get selected to umpire at national championships. So that's the level 4-5 program. All right, continued 2025 initiatives. So this year at the Super Clinic, we had a really good presentation by our mentorship committee that's in place, and they have a great vision about coordinating between the local and provincial umpire committee and really have a path, I guess, to improve mentorship amongst everyone. And so we're still looking to make sure that we get buy-in from all mentors, local associations to help the mentorship of young officials. And when I say young, I don't mean in age. I mean young is experienced, because we can have young mentors that are mentoring old by age umpires, but that maybe they're not as experienced. So this is about making sure that everybody is learning from everybody. We're also using tournaments and different provincial championships with off-field mentor crew chiefs to help umpires. And so we've done that at a few different provincial championships where we'll send out a very experienced umpire that's maybe not working championships as often anymore, and they'll be off the field mentoring, say, a 13U AA championship or 15U AA championship with some less experienced umpires, but we'll send somebody there. Unfortunately, we just don't have the capacity to do it at every tournament and every championship, or else we would. There's no question that this has been very beneficial for those crews that do get the opportunity to have that. Unfortunately, we just don't have the capacity to be able to send off-field crew chiefs to every championship. We're trying to get the championship staffed as best as we possibly can. Point of the plates webinars like what we're on tonight. So just a couple ones. So we ran the Baseball Alberta Academy Umpire Program last week. Today's the State of the Union or State of the Umpire Program. We're going to run a clinic, what I entitled it Best Clinic Topics. So continuous learning. We're going to pick a couple topics, and some of our curriculum experts are going to go through and really dive into some of those topics on a night. We're going to do an enhanced assigning procedures. I'll talk more on that in a second. And of course, we always run the national exam study group that for those that are in the national program and have the national exam to do. We run a study night for that. So just continuing that. Baseball Alberta Umpire Academy. So last week, Rob and I went through it, and Rob's done a great job with it. At the last point on here, I said for more info, please check out last week's Point of the Plate, the Umpire Academy. But just quickly, intensive umpire training program designed to accelerate an individual umpire and their learning, combining of live training and off-field sessions led by some of our best instructors. Low student to instructor ratio. So we're looking at 8 to 12 umpires, depending on the year, to put through this and really get some direct hands-on training. There's an application process, and it's open to students that have had at least one full year of umpiring and are turning 16 years old in that year to accept them in. So again, if you want a lot more of information on this Umpire Academy, please check out last week's Point of the Plate, because Rob did a really good job of jumping into all of the ins and outs, nuts and bolts of what the Umpire Academy is. So I'll leave it at that for tonight on the Umpire Academy. So into the future, 2025 and beyond, I talked about being data-driven and how can we facilitate the game of baseball better. Really, that's our main goal as the Umpire Committee. And it's got to be through improved retention and progression of umpires. My goal would be for every umpire that sets up as a level 1 umpire to eventually be in the national program. Is that realistic? No, I understand that. But that is our goal, to progress umpires as they wish, and to make umpiring want to be something that they get involved in and stay with. And so that idea of retention and progression is really big. And what are the things that we need to do that? And so one of the things that we're really looking at and are throwing around a ton of ideas, and like I said, I got a curriculum team that's helping on this. We're all talking about how can we be better on our delivery model right now. And so we've talked about the hybrid classroom between online and in person. There's no question that in-person clinics still have a lot of value. And in terms of, I think, best teaching practice, best pedagogy, that is probably the best way to have umpiring taught. However, are there things that we can do and topics that we can do through module-based learning or some sort of an online process? Yeah, there probably is. And so we need to really flesh out what the hybrid classroom might look like. I touched on the 2025 refreshers already. And the teaching tools that got implemented this year. Big shout out to our curriculum team, Devin Redekop and Amon McConney, to refresh our level 1 and 2 clinics this year. We need to continue to build and sustain the level 3 program. I think that's a big focus moving forward. Every year, if you look back to the earlier slides, it's that blip in the pyramid where the level 3 program just lacks. And so I think there's a problem, not a problem. I think the level 3 program is unique in that we have umpires that want to get through the level 3 program to get to the national program. And then we have umpires that go, you know what, I was there. Yeah, you know what, I'm good just being a level 2. And so the level 3 program loses because they're either going through it or they're saying, you know what, I'm good just being at the grassroots. So we need to focus on that. Our signing process, we're looking at enhancements this year that are likely to occur in season. So be prepared for that. And there's going to be further information to come. We've just about flushed it all out. And I think we're really excited about what that might look like. So we're very close to announcing what that will be. Stay tuned for more info. High performance, we need to start. Sorry, just want to go back real quick. Just want to address the needs of our umpires for maximum success at the level 4-5 program. I think we need to start. We're putting a lot of time and energy, and it is important because it's 85% of our program at the grassroots level. But I don't want to ever neglect or leave our level 4-5 umpires in the behind, and making sure that they're prepared for being successful at national championships. And then the last point is the female umpire progression or retention. So I said about our numbers, 89, I believe it was, 89 female umpires. How do we get those female umpires progressing through the program? Because the amount of opportunity that there is for female umpires this year, 2025, will mark the first female event at the Canada Summer Games baseball. So we've had Canada Summer Games gone on for however many years, so many, lots. Baseball's been a part of the Summer Games for a ton of time, and this will be the first year that the female baseball players have their own event. Accompanying the all-female players are going to be an all-female umpire crew. And so that is really exciting that umpires from across the country are being assigned to that. We also have development opportunities leading into kind of that being the pinnacle opportunity. And we're going to see that in our province this year at the 19U women's event held at Weber Academy over the August long weekend, where we're going to be putting as many female umpires throughout the country that are not maybe quite ready for that big time event at the Canada Summer Games, but we want to get them there 4 years from now, the next time that the Summer Games happen. And so we're going to use that 19U Women's Championship to mentor young female umpires, as well as male umpires are going to be at that event as well. But we're trying to gather as many female umpires that might be ready kind of in that level 3-ish, close to 4 part of the program. And so we need to get the numbers that we do have in our program continuing to progress, the female umpires that are in our program to continue to progress. So that's an area that we'll focus on in the future for sure. So with that, I think that's my kind of state of the umpire program. That's where we're at. That's where we have been, and that's where we're going in the future. So at this point, if there's questions, I'm sure I haven't looked at the chat lately, but I'm sure if there's questions, Jeff's got them, and would love to hear and try to help answer any of them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And thanks very much, Brandon, for that in-depth presentation as it relates to where we've been, where we're heading, and what's our focus kind of strategically for the future with our umpire program here in Alberta. For those of you that are watching live right now, please feel free to enter into the chat any questions you might have of Brandon, and we'll hopefully get to them throughout our live session. If you do have a question and you're listening to this kind of on replay, feel free to kind of send us an email or post them in on whatever comments, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you're finding this point of the plate. Kind of the first question that I have for you, Brandon, that's kind of came through is, can you kind of talk about some of the challenges that we have with a lot of younger umpires in our umpiring program, especially in the rural centers, and how it could cause us some impacts as it relates to double A play weekends where we might have 2 or 3 or 4 different levels going on in an area, and some of the challenges that we see.
Sure. So one of the stats actually that maybe I'm going to write a note on that we should pull out, and I think we can easily pull that out. But I should present on it is exactly how many of our umpires are players. And so as you were just talking about, whether it's an all play weekend or double A, so that could be an umpire that could be on a 13U double A team, a 15U double A team, an 18U double A team. And knowing that we have all those weekends happening, and a lot of the times there's two age groups that are combined, that really, straps that region or that area, like you said, in rural areas where we can't draw from a big center. Like if it's somewhere 40 minutes outside of Edmonton or a half an hour outside of Edmonton, okay, no big deal. It's a lot easier to draw umpires from a big center, Edmonton area. But when we're in rural Alberta, we know that, those umpires we count on, and then all of a sudden it's their turn to play that weekend. Well, they're going to play. We know that. And so that really puts pressure on the area to try to provide. And so I think, to answer your question, that some of the challenges that we have are making sure that associations, as they're trying to develop their umpires and promoting umpiring, that not only are we getting their players that come out to clinics, because we know that baseball players do make really good umpires, and vice versa. There's no question about that. We've seen how many ex-players have gone through the system and turned out to be pretty good umpires and continue to. But then we also need to get umpires that are able to commit more time, and if they want games, and they want games on weekends, and they want to get into some of the rep baseball, the double A baseball, then they have to understand that those are when those games are being played. And so associations need to understand that as well, that when we're recruiting umpires, that sometimes non-players are actually quite beneficial to us because they have more time to give when they're not having to manage both. So we want both, we need both, but we also know that there's only so much time, right, for somebody to commit. So I hope that answers kind of that question a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure, Brandon. Kind of another question that's kind of came through. It's from Kevin. And so Kevin kind of talks about that Baseball Alberta isn't the only kind of baseball association in Alberta. And we know we have multiple different associations, whether it's Little League, other academies, or even some of the summer collegiate ball that we have here in the province. Can you kind of talk about and explain kind of some of the ways in which the Baseball Alberta Umpire Program reaches out to these other associations and works with them to make sure that everyone is achieving kind of success in terms of umpiring?
Yeah, so, I think one of the things that we've done maybe a little bit better of a job in the last few years is not so much working in isolation from each other. A lot of our umpires that are in Baseball Alberta Umpire Program maybe started or are also involved in some of those different entities that you spoke of, and we're certainly trying to build relationships and trying to make connections and making sure that that baseball is baseball and that we can work together. And a lot of those, you're talking about some higher end stuff when you use the word academies and collegiate and stuff like that. But the Baseball Alberta Umpire Program is the place to start. You gotta learn and you gotta go through kind of the process, and then those opportunities become available to you as well, right? So like I said, nobody's working in isolation with each other, I don't think, or as it's gotten better in that sense, where there's somebody that's part of the Baseball Alberta Umpire Program that's probably also involved in one of those other entities. And so in terms of that relationship and coordinating and working together, that we see a lot more of that in recent years. And so I think that's a good thing for baseball in general.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I know both you and I do kind of have other opportunities in the Western Canadian Baseball League and the West Coast League. And we've gotten those opportunities by continuing to develop through the Baseball Alberta Umpire Program. So it's always key to work together with those various groups. One of the other questions that's kind of always comes up from umpires in Alberta is in terms of how do we compare with some of the other provinces that we have, not in the sense of kind of competing as to saying we're better than Saskatchewan or BC, even though we have the mountains, so we're pretty awesome compared to Saskatchewan. But kind of how do we compare kind of nationally in comparison to our provincial counterparts?
Yeah, I think that's the metrics or to try to have a cut and dry answer on that is quite difficult. But I can tell you that certainly, like you said, using national championships, which is always even difficult in doing that because you're looking at a 4-day tournament event, and how's those umpires perform in a 4-day event with maybe supervisors that they may or may not have ever seen before, probably not. And with crewmates that they've never worked probably a game with ever in their life. And now we're asking them to perform at a really high level. And our umpires do. Our umpires perform at a really high level at those events. It's not uncommon for us to be put in, gold medal games or having some of the big assignments, semifinal plate jobs, those kind of things. I think one of the other matrix, though, that I like to look at, or metrics, to determine where are we at nationally, is to look at some of the programming and the development that's being offered. And so I think we're right up there. Adding something like the Umpire Academy last year took us to the next level. That kind of reinfused our program with something. One, it was new. B, I think it's going to have long-term effects on just making umpiring better in this program and in this province. I talked a little bit about the female umpire program. That's probably an area that we need to do probably the most work in. I look at how we prepare umpires for national championships, going through our evaluation process. When we send umpires to national championships, there's no doubt in our minds that they are prepared and ready and will be able to handle that level of event. This is a concept that's been implied since I think 2014, I think is when we did it, where we simulate a national championship at a provincial championship when we do the evaluations. That's a plus, a checkbox for our province. Growing the numbers, that's a checkbox. Putting on more clinics every year. Those are all really good things and areas of growth, and show that the Baseball Alberta Umpire Program is thriving.
Yeah, no, for sure. I do know we have kind of a few more minutes in our point of the plate for this evening. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to toss them in the chat. If you are watching this kind of on tape delay, feel free to put them in the comments section or send us an email. We did receive a question from Matthew, Brandon, and Matthew's asking, is there any specific rule that restricts less experienced umpires from officiating higher caliber games if that umpire has came from a coaching background or maybe even an experienced softball background?
Yeah, and so this is it's a really good question. The quick answer is no. there is not a hard, steadfast rule. I think a lot of people have always asked, like, so what do I get if I'm a level 1? What do I get if I'm a level 2? And that's how I kind of touched on that in the slide presentation. If you can umpire and you have the experience from a playing background or a coaching background, and you're confident and comfortable, then yeah, we can, in terms of the levels of games that you may be receiving, there's definitely room and opportunity to be moved. But we also need to see, competency. Again, I touched on this, I think, a few times throughout, was making sure we put umpires in position of success. And so, yeah, we may get an older person who's come back to the game in an umpiring form, very limited umpiring experience, or as you mentioned in the question, umpiring baseball experience, but they've done softball, but maybe they coached or they played at a really high level. Well, yeah, that person's pathway is going to look a little bit different. And once we get those basic fundamental umpiring concepts down, then in terms of their pathway and the freedom of movement, that there's definitely no hard rule that says just because you don't have as much experience, you have to only can do up to this level. That doesn't exist. So.
Absolutely. And I do know we've had a few people that have came from that high level playing background or coaching background come over to the umpire side of things and been very successful in our program.
And like I said, been maybe advanced too. So.
For sure. The next question I have, or maybe a little bit of a plug, it wouldn't be fair for me not to do this, for Liam, who's back at Baseball Alberta's worldwide headquarters helping us out with the stream this evening. But we did have a bit of a rebrand from the Baseball Alberta side of things last year. How is that impacting the umpire program? And kind of as a plug to that, is there any sort of new gear available or going to be available here in the next little bit for umpires?
Yeah, I can't believe I didn't come up with a slide for that. Thanks for reminding me. That's a total miss on my part. Strike one. So we're really excited that after the launch of the rebrand, Baseball Alberta rebrand in 2024, that in 2025 that the umpire program is now on board as well. And so we were able to, after lots of discussion and making sure that we did it the right way, come up with some gear, apparel. Shouldn't say gear, it's apparel, shirts, hats, jackets that are very much the same quality, and I believe even the same brand as what Baseball Canada has offered. But because we want to brand Baseball Alberta, we're Baseball Alberta Umpires, and that's what we want to do. We wanted to put the bighorn on our Baseball Alberta Umpire stuff, and so we are happy to announce that yes, we have hats and both a powder shirt and a black jersey, as well as a jacket that has the Baseball Alberta logo on it, that we hope to see being flaunted around proudly this year on as a Baseball Alberta Umpires on the diamond. In terms of so how that's going to get rolled out, so we asked for some pre-orders early in the year, and we got those numbers back, and so we've made a large bulk order, and so those orders will be going to the umpires that were a part of that pre-order. And then we understood that not everybody probably jumped on board at that point. Maybe they hadn't even been to a clinic yet at that point. And so we do have the ability to supply umpires depending on what we have in stock and how quickly it will be to then order in new stock. Timelines may be a little bit different, but we're definitely excited to roll out the first order of new Baseball Alberta umpire gear. So that's an exciting thing for us. If we look nationally across the country, a lot of provinces are kind of going back to this concept of wearing your provincial branded gear during provincial games, and that Baseball Canada gear, which has been used for a long period of time in this province, or unbranded gear, just blanks, is strictly being used for Baseball Canada Championships, or just moving away from the blank gear. And so now that we have this great logo and that we've done such a great job, and like you shout out to Liam for his involvement and really rolling out this rebrand, why wouldn't the umpire committee jump on board? Why wouldn't we want to be a part of that? And so it's really exciting that in 2025 that we will be.
For sure. And if anyone's looking for some more information or even looking to purchase some of this gear, feel free to check out the Baseball Alberta shop at www.baseballalberta.com for more information. Last question I have for you, Brandon, before we wrap up this evening is, if there was kind of one big kind of initiative or one big thing that you want to see changed here in the next year or couple of years, kind of through your leadership, knowing that you've been in this role for some time, what would that be, and what do you view as success for the program moving forward?
That's a great question. I think we're kind of at the culmination of my initial plans and what I wanted to set out to achieve. And so from a personal level, but I think we've done some great work. The implementation of the academy, that's a big thing. Certainly want to see where this hybrid classroom and delivery of level 1 and 2 clinics goes, and how we can sort that out. It's not something I want to just rush into right away. When we get into that conversation, we need to do it the proper way. We need to make sure it's effective learning, make sure it's effective teaching. So that's exciting, because I think that brings us from I don't want to say the dark days, but certainly the way that umpiring has been taught in this province for a long time into a whole new world. And I'm sure that world's only going to get bigger and better at some point, and probably well beyond my time. But so I'd like to start that process. And I think the one area that I talked about is this assigning process. And so I'm really excited to see, like I said, we're almost ready to launch the new ideas and see where that goes for us in the future, because I know that's been a concern for many different stakeholders for many different years. And so if we can continue to improve upon that, those are probably my two areas that I think moving forward we can certainly put a lot of time and energy into.
For sure. That's perfect, Brandon. And once again, thank you for your time this evening as we went through the State of the Umpire Program for 2025 in our second Baseball Alberta Umpires Point of the Plate for this evening. There's no other kind of questions coming in through the live chat, but that's not to say that the conversation has ended by any means. If you are listening to this a few days later, feel free to put some questions in the comments or send Brandon an email, and we'd be more than happy to reach out to you and answer those questions, because our umpire group, as well as our various groups that we work with, players, coaches, parents, we're more than happy to connect with on that. We are going to have some future points of the plate coming up, so stay tuned to the Baseball Alberta Umpires website for those events, and always stay connected with the Baseball Alberta Umpires program through Facebook, Instagram, and the Baseball Alberta YouTube page. With that being said, thanks everyone for listening to the Point of the Plate for this evening, our State of the Umpire program with Brandon Strocki. My name's Jeff Chipley, and we hope that you have a great baseball season. Thanks, and good night.
Night, everyone.